I just have a couple of my annual updates. If you were here last year, this is pretty much the exact same slides I showed. So basically, this is kind of going back into January. This is just always a good time to look at your apportionment report where they have the actual numbers in there now. Just make sure that your budget isn't completely skewed. Also, your I-grants, the carryover should be available now, and so you just need to remember that you'll have to submit budget revisions in order to spend those dollars. Also, a good idea to review your K-3 compliance reports. I just did mine for Waterville and found out I had 2 third-grade teachers that I didn't know about. So it's just a good time to look at it and get your S275 updated if you need to. Also want to verify your CEDARS data. Last year, March 31st was that final deadline, and this is going to impact your LAP and title funding. The sick leave buyback notices for those of you that do payroll. Also, the mileage rate went up January 1st and is now 53.5 cents per mile.
It went down, didn't it?
Yeah,
It did. Oh, what was it?
54.
54.
Oh, okay. Well, I just said now. I didn't say.
I say we round up.
Register for WAG and wazbow. Also, the L&I pension rate went up. I think we did send this out in the business line along with instructions for making sure that gets updated in your system. I think last year we had about 5 districts that we didn't quite realize until 5 months into the year that it hadn't been updated. And then also, this is normally about the time that we think about doing an F-197 reconciliation workshop. So I'm just going to try to gather interest at this point. I'll probably send something out, see if there's any interest in it, and then we'll get something scheduled. And then it's just time to begin that budget planning calendar. And this is also a good time to get out any information to your ASB folks so they can start their budget planning process before the kids leave. That's all I got.
So I just had a few little topics. You got it. To kind of hit on. One of the things I did want to kind of quick review. I did send it out, but just because we talked about it today. Where did it go? There it is. Can I make this bigger? This, for some reason, I can't make this bigger. And now I can't get off it. It's not letting me do anything to it. Well, anyways, this top here, I know it's hard to see, I apologize. Things kind of locked me out. This is the new, the second one down here is kind of the new chart of accounts that they're proposing. And one of the things I want, before everybody gets panicked about it when you're looking at it, I wish I could make this bigger. There's got to be a way. There we go. All right. There we got it. And so what you can see here is they're talking about increasing the fund numbers to 2 digits. Don't know what they were thinking on that front. I don't think we're going to add more funds. They're talking in significant length about adding a levy fund because they really want to start tracking exactly how you spend your levy dollars. The current bills in front of the legislature right now, one came from the Republican side, and it's the levy swap bill. And really what it boils down to is they're going to really restrict our abilities to levy an M&O levy locally, and they're going to take those funds to the state level, and then from the state level they'll equitably push them out. So that's kind of one of the things they're talking about there. So that would be one of the Democrat bill that was pushed out was really focused on teacher pay. It really hasn't said much about the levy or anything like that. So I'm not really sure where they're going to go from here. That's what TJ was kind of saying. We have some kind of 30,000 foot views. I took the same thing away that he took away from it, which is we did get lucky that they came out with something this soon. I mean, normally you wouldn't have even seen these kinds of proposals for another month or two at this stage. But, so anyways, why they're talking about 2 codes for the fund, or two digits for the fund, I'm not entirely sure. The GL code, one of the things I want you all to take away, and something I'm like going to try and start playing around with in they have the CCDDD codes. We've been talking about why the location codes, they continue wanting to create their own location codes, and we already have codes designed that are dedicated to each school district. So we've been going rounds for that, and so we're still working through that. The object code, they only have the 1-digit object code now, but they're talking, my biggest argument has been when I have seen it done elsewhere, the object code was where the real meat lies usually, and here you're using a 1-digit object code, so you could get away from all your source and all these other codes if you did just really rounded out your object code. So this has been my debate with it. My biggest debate started with like 32 digits. So I was very pleased when I got them whittled down to here. I mean, they had it all the way out. And so, they keep talking about the activity in the program codes, and then the revenue codes, which this is what keeps getting me, is if you do your object codes right, you don't need a revenue code. So I keep going rounds with them on that front. And then the source codes, this is where they're trying to talk about you'd identify with your expenditures and your revenues with the same source code so you can match the 2 of them together. And see, my thing of this is if you go back to true fund accounting, you'd have, like, I had 60-some funds when I was in Alaska. And every fund was dedicated around a revenue source. So if I had a federal title grant, say 6B, I had a fund. And all of my revenues from 6B came into there, and all my expenses went there, and I could clearly show anybody how that works. What I keep arguing with them is why do you, I can understand if we need to meet the law to keep the 5 funds, but why don't we just turn whatever you're calling your source code into kind of a sub-fund structure? And we can just track everything that way. We just basically, we meet the statute. So anyways, this is the result of far too many long meetings on that. And so I'm pleased with the direction we've got here. The things that I would argue, if you're going to set this up in the new system, I would take out the GL codes out of your reporting. If you're going to report it to your budget status reports, things like that, I'd just get rid of those things. Because one of the things that we're seeing is our account codes get to be so freaking long. And so there's no need for those GL codes to appear. Same with these DDD codes. Nobody has those printed in theirs. So really your fund, your source, and then I see these as all kind of combining into one, and then your object, and they're very focused on location. The ledge is asking for the ability to know how each dollar is being spent per school. That's what they want to be able to see. They want to know that an elementary school received these dollars specifically. And so that's what's really getting tricky about all this, and that's why this thing has been such a battle, is because what the ledge is asking for is, they're to the point where they're basically saying, I want to know where every penny you've received, I want to see what expenditure it's attached to. And we kind of do this with our revenue to expenditure resource report that we do each year, but we kind of don't. We kind of just, this is, and the reality of it is it's actually more accurate than I think people give it credit for, because it really is kind of, that's how the money gets shaken out. If you just kind of put like, these dedicated funds go to these things, and then if you just lumped everything else together and says it covers everything else, you accomplish the same goal. And this is something we saw in Alaska. They started where they had this really narrow definition, and then somebody came through and said, this is stupid, and then they broadened it all out, and now they slowly started coming back down on it again. So I'm guessing 5-10 years they'll hit this again, and we'll wind back up. But I think this is what it's going to end up being. I really do. This is kind of what the SDAAC settled on after a lot of negotiating. So how it's going to appear in the system, one of the things I'm really been arguing with OSPI about with the School District Accounting Manual, and one of the things that I've been talking about with WSIPSI is, why is it when you open the accounting manual and you print out your report from your WestPac, you don't see the exact same sequence and printed in front of you. So you're sitting here like, your revenues, you got to take your source codes, and you got to put your program codes. You put those source codes in front of those, and then all of a sudden you can tie them all together. It doesn't. For those of you who've been doing it for years, it's just logical. For a new person coming in, if I pull out the Alaska Chart of Accounts book, I can go to my system and hit print, and I'll tell you, it will show you those exact same structures in the book. It's very, very clear. So for new people coming in, it's a huge hurdle when you see the school district accounting manual, and then you go and print your system and go, how do I tie these two together? And I'm looking at the newer people here nodding, because this is one of the things that I challenged, and I've been doing this for 10 years before I got here. And so one of the things I'd really like to see, this is why you can do this in the system, is I'd really like to see the reporting coming out of the system mirroring how it looks in the accounting manual. So it makes it easier for everybody who's coming in to understand it. How that's going to play out with the new software, how that's going to play out with the new account code structure, I don't know. But I keep coming back to this concept of a standardized chart of accounts. Like you limit down to a certain number of codes, and then you accept that there's going to be a certain number of responsibility codes, and then everybody else can kind of go do whatever they want with their responsibility codes. But even if you just said, enter the responsibility codes, these ones are assigned to these things, and then at least now you can start looking at different people's numbers from every other place and get feedback on it and try to start to, I don't know, standardize all that. In my head, it seems easy. I know it's not. I've been through an has anybody in here been through a software change? I know some of you have been through the WISE change. Has anybody been through a big change before? It's not fun. And I don't care what Jennifer says. I love her to death for this. But
it's fun.
But she says you're looking at the same data, but everybody knows what your staffs are seeing. The interfaces are different. So I always liken it to my mother, who thinks that if something disappears off the desktop, it's gone for good. So that's what a lot of people are going to see. Their interfaces that they're used to seeing every day are going to change. So that's why I keep saying, let's get on this as soon as possible and keep moving forward with it. I've gotten some resistance from WSIPSI on it, but I keep trying to make us a test site for everything. So, anyways, this came out in one of our business lines. If anybody wants a copy of this, let me know. I can get it for you. I really do think we're going to have some action on this in the next year, that they're going to start to pick the timelines for implementing all this in the next year or so. So I really do see it being like a perfect storm. 18, 19, if you're going to retire, I'm thinking that might be the year you want to do it before. A couple of other things. Trish and I should just give all the credit to Trish on this one. Wazbow has been very challenging for us to get them to offer their accounting 1 and 2 courses in our region. The problem being is they have this minimum requirement of 10 students before they'll offer the class. I tried to teach the class because I could argue then you don't need to send anybody over. Hell, you don't even need to pay me. Just give me the ability to teach the class and we'll go for it. They let me do it once, and then I got into a big argument with them and they stopped letting me do it. So it's a long story. But anyway, so what we've gotten them to agree to is kind of what we saw today with TJ and the SAO lady, Sarah, is to allow them to set up a Zoom session. And so Holly, the lady who teaches it, will be in Spokane. We're trying to get it set up so that we can video her, and we'll hold the classes live. The teacher will be in Spokane, but we'll have the class here in Wenatchee, and people can come to one of our classrooms, do the class there, and then our plan is to staff the classroom here with somebody who can support you. I mean, when I was a kid in high school, we had interactive television classrooms where like a paraprofessional sat in the classroom and our teacher was on a TV screen. I had 9 tube screen TVs plastered across the wall. I don't know why it's so hard to do it and everything today. So we're going to give it a try and find out. So this is one of the things Trish and I have been working on quite a bit, and I'm really excited that she's finally made some headway on that. And that's also, she serves as our regional representative on the WASBO board, and so we're very fortunate for that. So.
Can I ask a question about that? Are those
No.
the classes that I'm going to Are those the classes that I just saw advertised that just came out?
Yes. So the dates on those, for those who are asking, Accounting 1 is March 10th through April 8th, and Accounting 2 will be April 21st through May 20th.
So Accounting 1 has traditionally always been online, but instead of it being online, it's going to be sort of this...
They've done it. Yeah. They tried to do the online thing, and they had a lot of negative feedback from it. It just didn't really pan out for people. it had to do, I think, with the person teaching it. I think it had to do with the format and the platform they were using. But I think they really found it to be unsuccessful. So they kind of just quit doing the online version. So we've been trying to convince them to do is this. Instead of doing this online recording type thing, let's do it live. And you saw what it looks like today. If I were going to take a couple things away from what I learned today, it's really focus on who's presenting, on what the background, the room they're in looks like, what kind of environment they're in, and then the microphone. I think there's something to do with the microphone. I'm not sure if that was our system, the speakers, or if it was the microphone on their end. But if we can keep kind of tweaking that and getting it better, I think that'll allow us to have access to that. So to answer your question, I believe wazbow is just pretty well stopped doing that because they did it and then they had a bunch of students who took one that way. Then they took two. And they didn't perform really well in two. And so I think they really felt like that model just wasn't working. So I'm really trying to pursue this one with them, and we're really excited that they're willing to give it a try.
So the idea is that the content, which Dave's already taught both the classes, so the content will be reviewed by the on-site liaison at the ESD, and then we'll have that connection with the Zoom, and then we'll have the on-site liaison with the content, and then just kind of mitigating any questions and going through all that. So that way you get kind of the poly via electronic, but then you'll have somebody on site to help go through questions and whatever.
Yeah, and in conjunction with this, my frustration with wazbow kind of overwhelmed a lot of the things. So I hit up my ESD counterparts and I said, look, I'm done with this. Can we try to work as a network to come up with some sort of a solution? And so Trish, Sally, and I met with a cross-section of people from the other ESDs, and we actually did a beta run of what we're trying to do as a professional development session. There's 9 of us ESDs. We figure we can do 9 or 10 a year sessions where it's just going to look exactly what we were just talking about. We'll have one of the ESDs do the presentation in the morning. The idea would be a day-long session at the ESD. You'd come in, and in the morning, either it'd be us doing it live, and they'd be videotaping it for the other ESD, or they would be zooming. This is a product called Zoom. Zooming in from the other ESDs, and then once the session was done, we'd have a half a day of work session. And again, we'd staff the room and have people present who could help support anybody who wants to be in it. So the idea being, like, if the training was on how to do the F-195, you could spend the rest of the afternoon working on your F-195, something along those lines. And that's what we're trying to do. We did a test session a week ago, and it actually went really well. Trish actually presented to the group. We had about a half a dozen different people kind of come in, and it worked out really well. We did it over in our Ponderosa room. So we learned quite a bit, but we've got the next session, for the next meeting for the group of us to actually plan the curriculum. And those will be something we're planning on doing for free, at least for the first year, until we get our hands around how it looks and how it works. And then ultimately the beauty of these things are, if we master this product and this kind of technology, eventually you don't have to come here. You can just sit in your own office and watch this. I get a lot of pushback from OSPI when I try to get them to do sessions with the K-20. The K-20 is going to go away. They're going to get Zoom. They're actually implementing Zoom. You'll be hearing this soon.
There's a session at wazbow on Zoom.
Yeah. So they're actually replacing, I mean, the K-20 hardware and the lines and everything is all still going to be there, but they're going to use Zoom as the software. And for those of you who've been to previous business manager forums where the screen was all garbled and everything, notice we didn't have that problem today. I've been blaming the K-20 network. Every time I've tried to do a K-20, I've had problems like that. So it's terrible. And so we're kind of migrating toward that side of things. We're hopefully front running it by what we're doing here. We're very blessed to have Pete and Debbie Thompson. They jumped way out in front of this, and so a lot of us here at the ESD have already been exposed to it, have gotten really used to it, and it's been a real value to us. For instance, today's morning session, I don't know what I would have done if we couldn't have zoomed her in and had her do her session because she couldn't make it over the hill. And I don't know about you all, it had its issues, but I thought it went very well for someone being remote, especially for something as esoteric as that. I mean, when you're talking something like that, you kind of like, it's boring. She's right, it's boring enough as it is. And the questions, and so if you have any problems with hearing, everybody will just zone out. And I thought it went actually surprisingly well. So anyway, something to be looking forward to. We're hoping to have the first session of the professional development. And again, you're going to have to bear with us. The first 1 or 2 will be kind of beta tests. But we're going to try and do those probably March or April is when we're really hoping to have our first 1 or 2 of those. It's really all going to depend on what the curriculum we land on is. Blue Spruce, our computer lab room, we're upgrading it. I'm tired of everybody sitting there over their computers looking down at the 80s screen. So I bought monitors. So we're going to do double monitors in all of those. So those of you who travel in, I was there sitting with all of you doing that data entry thing last summer, and I got done and I don't know. So I understand the feeling of it also. We've ordered the monitors. They should be here in the next couple of weeks. We'll hopefully have that implemented. So then for future training sessions. My biggest fear is how it's going to look with the monitors and the screen and making sure you can still see the screen around the monitors. But we're going to give it a try, see how it looks. I'm just excited that people will be able to have their dual monitors. Because the idea is that for those of you especially who drive in from across the planet here, half across the state to get here, it's a long haul. And if you're going to stay here to work all day, it'd be nice that you had that environment to work in. So we're planning on upgrading that. Another thing that you can be looking for, and Jason and the team have been really working on DocuSign. Has anybody used DocuSign before? Do you know what that is? We're trying to migrate our contracts to DocuSign. So instead of all this paper type stuff, we're going to start sending it out. So we're just in the infancy of it. We're just taking our baby steps into it. But some of you might be getting it. If you have questions on how to use it, what you need to do, just call us. But literally, you don't need to actually add any software. If we send you something to sign via DocuSign, everything you have is there. You just need to sign it and click on it and send it back. And so we're really going down that path and hopefully reduce some of our paper. Plus, one of the ideas is maybe turn around our contracts faster here at the ESD. It takes a long time to get those all out, then get them all signed, then get them all signed by you all, then get them all back, and then process them. So we're hoping that'll take some of that. And then I think the auditors hit on the federal audit threshold. They decided we weren't going to be high risk. That was one of the things I had on this list to talk about. And then like I said, the governmental-wide financial statements. I don't know why this is such a big issue, but for some reason, SAO got picked on for it in their peer review. If any of you've dealt with auditors or accountants, they get a peer review every so often. They basically their peers come in and audit them and tell them they go through the exact same thing they put all of us through. So and they were told that this was a problem, and they're right. Every other government's required to do government-wide financial statements. It's just a roll-up of everything else we're doing. So I don't see why it's such a challenge. So hopefully that should be coming and be worked out. But otherwise, I just thank you all for coming. That was all we had for you today. If there's any questions from anybody before we wrap up and roll out, of course you do.
So, with the accounting class happening in Spokane, is the Zoom here going to be at the same time? Or is
Yes.
it gonna, okay.
The idea, well, and for if any of you want to, you can drive to Spokane and go. The idea would be for us to set up like Ponderosa or Blue Spruce or Cottonwood upstairs or one of the rooms, and actually have them pipe in the teacher out of Spokane into the room. But then our hope here is that we can staff the room with somebody here who can support you directly.
I wasn't sure if it was same time or if you were going to actually make it like a Monday, Tuesday.
As of this right now, wazbow's very technologically challenged, I guess would be the right word to phrase it. And so I don't know, like I myself, I would say, why can't we just record it and let you guys do the class whenever? But to their defense, they actually do have credit. You can get college credit. So there are certain requirements they're required to live up to by that. Where that all goes inside of this, I don't know. So for now, for the time being, yes, the meeting will be here at the ESD. It'll be at the same times they're having theirs. The good news is you only have to drive here instead of Spokane or Seattle or wherever else.
For some reason, they always have it on a Saturday. Why, since this is a PD thing for your job, I guess I was saying, why don't they have it like on a Thursday, Friday, or a Monday, Tuesday, or whatever?
To be completely honest with you, I think it goes back to an old school mindset. It was back in the day when they used to do all the conferences and everything on the weekends because it was wrong for you to leave your school. And it's just a habit that's never changed. When I taught the classes, anybody who took my class knows I adjusted the schedule myself because I was like, I don't need, and they actually were really uncomfortable with me doing that. And I'm like, what do you care? You're not going to be here. And so we did it. I did it on like a couple of weekdays or something like that. And we did the times earlier. So I agree with you. I don't know. I think it's harder for people to get away from the office, but I think that mindset's shifting too. So I think you'll see that change over time. Again, I keep coming back to at some point. I mean, you saw it today. At some point, why can't you have this entire class sitting at your desk, interactive? I mean, talk to any of our Julie, Trish, Jeanette. They're all taking classes where their professors on the screen, and they'll take their tests and they have a camera sitting on them the entire time they're taking their test, so somebody can see it. I mean, that kind of stuff. I don't know why we can't start migrating all of this to that level. The biggest issue is the information getting effectively communicated when you do that. And like today, I felt like it worked. And there are other times where it just won't, and being there in person is really necessary. But I think we need to keep exploring this, as especially as budgets get tighter. So, but yeah, I don't know why they keep doing it on the weekends like that. I just don't. Well, yeah, there's nothing like going to work all week and then giving up your weekend too.
You want a class, but it's hard to get a weekend when you could do it.
Tanya, do you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna say, I like the capability of you guys doing Zoom now, because there's been a few times where I've had to ask Jeanette a question, and I said, I don't wanna come clear down here and show her something.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I'll do a Zoom, and then she shares her screen,
Mhm.
but then I need to show her something, so she just switches it, so I show
Yeah.
my screen to her.
The beauty of the product is, and it won't show up on the screen because of the way it's set up, but I can just set it up so that you and I can share. So I can pull up a file, and like you saw her PowerPoint that she was in the corner, like I can just hand her over control. I can hand someone else over control. So if you and I are interacting, and I'm like, well, here's what I'm seeing, see this, and then you can go, no, but here's what I'm seeing, and you can switch it over to you and show me what's on your screen at the same time. And it works out really nicely that way. You can record it very easily. It's got a lot of really neat features in it. You can have up to like 50 people in it at a time. When you get the more and more people, you start to get into that's one of the reasons I want to start with the classroom, is you get the more and more people that like everybody trying to talk at once thing kind of starts to happen. So we're kind of baby stepping our way into it, but it's been a frustration for us to get the professional development here, and so this is what we're really trying to push for. So, yeah. So,
Zoom's also a good alternative for conference calls.
yeah.
So is this a for sure thing? Because I think Laura would probably, if I threw it up, would she want to take advantage of the number two?
Yeah, so,
Or is there going to be more coming out? Because like Jen said, that email that came out, it just looks like
Yeah, I misinterpreted that email.
Trish, do you want to respond to that?
yeah, I don't think they did a real great job of,
Or I missed, I didn't read it.
no, they didn't explain that part. So I have worked with Laura and Holly both specifically, and I did confirm with them this week that if we want to do, actually, they're really excited that Dave and I are gonna do the software.
We're apparently Wasbow's IT department.
And so,
Should start invoicing.
they absolutely are gonna let us run with it if we want.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much up to Dave and I, and so I had suggested to Dave, I said, well, let's talk about it today, see if there's interest. If there's interest, then we'll do it. If there's not, then there's no sense in, us, because Dave offered to go to Spokane and help on their end, and then I was gonna be here and being the liaison here on this end, and so, it's a lot of time commitment for the both of us if there's nobody in.
So I just check with Laura if she wants to just email you guys and let you know, and then we're going to have to just
So you're saying you're Laura, like a Laura, you're,
Yeah.
you're like, Laura from Wasbow is the lady who's in charge of the program, so I was like, oh, you're, okay, I gotcha. Yes.
She did one, but she has a little kid.
Okay.
And she's wanted to do another one online, but every time she wants to, like, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that, I apologize. I was thinking she was talking
No, no.
Laura, yeah, from Wasbow. So, yeah, have her email us.
You just register for the Spokane class, we're just gonna hold it that.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll double check it, but I'm almost sure she'll be.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, this is really cool. We look forward to you guys doing this.
Well,
But look at you, Stephanie.
Well, that's what I said. For you guys, what do you care? You're holding the class. You can just add that many more people to it. It's just like free money for you guys. What do you care? So,
that's why they're like, great, I'm so glad
No.
we were gonna do this.
it's really important to me to get this stuff brought to the North Central here. It's been a very big frustration. I've been very disappointed in the responsiveness I've gotten, and so anytime anybody's willing to try this, I'll push as far as I can to get it here. So.
Send me stuff, for me to take to board meetings, I'm happy to do that, because I told them I wanted to see more professional development in our area, and that I felt that it needed to be better than what we're getting, and so they tabled it at the last board meeting, and I said, okay, that's fine, but I'm gonna bug you next month about this, because to me, it's an issue, and I'm pretty new, and there's no PD, and if you guys haven't done your surveys, that will be a very helpful input from everybody, to say what you're looking for, what you need, because I think they might think that I'm just one person that feels that way.
Well, Vancouver is a long ways to go for a training.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
For a 4-hour training.
Mhm.
10 hours.
Guidance or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
get it here.
I'm very fortunate Trish was willing to be on the board, because the way she filters what I'm saying is much more polite than when I say to them when I talk to
You're
them.
not talking, do it.
Yeah, no, they pretty well quit talking to me. It's a good thing Nancy's retiring, because I don't think anyways.
Application's open if anybody.
Yeah, if anybody wants to be the executive director of WASBO, that's open right now. And the CFO of OSPI, there's the job too. Oh, you couldn't pay me enough to do that job. Any other questions before we let everybody loose? All right.
I'd like to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I know the weather has been the greatest, so we appreciate everybody coming in.
Thanks, Dave, so much for putting this together.
Thank you all.